There's a lot in this weekend's gospel for us to unpack. I don't know about you, but every time I read this gospel, I feel so bad for Thomas. I think I talked about this last year too. But of all of the nicknames to get, Doubting Thomas. He made one mistake, and for 2 millennia, he has now been known as Doubting Thomas. Talk about your past sticking with you, right? But how many times do we make that same mistake with ourselves? Lying, fill in the blank. Cheating, fill in the blank. Whatever else, fill in the blank. That's how we define ourselves many times, by that one mistake that we've made. And so for us, for our whole lives, we look at that worst sin that we've committed, that worst mistake that we've ever done, and that is our defining characteristic. But no, it's not. In fact, this weekend is one of those weekends where God invites us out of those incorrect definitions. We celebrate, as I mentioned at the beginning of Mass, the divine mercy of God. Divine Mercy Sunday came to us in the early 20th century after the vision of St. Faustina in Poland, where she had this image of the image we have in the back of church, of Christ coming to her and showing his divine mercy. At the bottom of those images, very often we see the phrase, what? Jesus, I trust in you. I long for that day where I can truly say those words, that I truly do trust and believe in everything that the Lord has in front of me, but I still struggle with it, and I know I'm not the only one in this church. I struggle to believe that God has the best thing in place for me, for my friends, for my family, for our parish sometimes. Like, Lord, now I know you have this plan in place, but I think we can do it better. Now, I don't think I'm the only one that makes that mistake. That I recognize my sinfulness by saying, oh no, instead of recognizing me being created in his image and likeness, I want him to be in my image and likeness because I'm always right. Pride comes before the fall. But we still continue to fall into that trap time and time again of defining ourselves by those actions that really don't define us and then embracing them so much so that we live them out. We are self-sabotagers. We look at our lives and say, this is all that can be. Well, I went and saw the movie Father Stu again last night, and it reminded me that it's never too late for us to turn to God. No matter what our past holds, it's never too late for us to turn back to God. Now, one of the saints that I've always kind of looked to was St. Augustine. We hear about him a lot. St. Augustine of Hippo. If you don't know anything about him, read about him. He's fantastic. And if you are a parent that struggles with your children, look to his mother, St. Monica. Why is she a saint? Basically because she prayed for the conversion of her son and her husband for 35 years. Oh, Father, my kids left the church. How long ago? 3 years ago. Oh, you still have 32 years. Don't worry about it. It'll be okay. They have time to come back. And many times in our own lives, we look back when we were in their same situation, we realize, I made that same mistake. Went to a Catholic high school, a very Catholic family. We prayed all the time. We did the rosary every Sunday. Went off to college. Lived from here to the parish hall away from a church. I live closer there than I do now to the parish hall. And the parish hall would have been the church. I still didn't go. They even had a meal for college kids, which is like gold. And it was like 50 pounds of pasta every Sunday night. I was like, filling. Didn't go. Had a great, amazing preacher, good priest, had the sacraments, had a very vibrant young community. Didn't go. Had amazing music, had all the things that I was looking for. Didn't go. Because I thought I knew better than God. Never turned away from my faith. I always called myself a Catholic. Anytime my non-Catholic friends would come and try and have the fights of, you believe that Mary is the fourth person of the quadrinity, which isn't really a thing, but that's how they think, that we worship Mary, and that we're all Satan worshipers, and that we're all going to hell, and we're all cannibals. Like, what are you talking about, first of all? Second of all, we don't believe any of that. And I'm Catholic. Didn't go to church, but I'm Catholic, gosh darn it. And then I began to realize that, I may be Catholic, but I wasn't even practicing my faith. I was a non-practicing Catholic. Though ironically, I was still a practicing Catholic, because being a practicing Catholic means what? Sometimes I'm gonna get it wrong. And at that point in my life, I was getting it wrong more than I was getting it right. The Lord came and said, oh, bless your heart, Danny. Failed out of college, moved back home, got my butt back to church. Here I am today. And I bring that up a lot, A, to give you hope that if your children have left the faith, they can always come back. B, to talk about St. Augustine, because he's one of my heroes. He was very eloquent. He was very charismatic. But he wasn't Catholic until he was. And it was through his mother's prayers that he had mercy on himself, forgave himself for his past, and then allowed the Lord to forgive him. I feel bad for doubting Thomas, because he doubted and was defined by it. But if we look back, as I talked about in one of the first adult classes we had last semester, remember doubt as that root of sin in the garden? We talked about that. Doubt, if we think about it, is the root of almost every sin. We think that pride is. But I think at the root of pride, ironically, is doubt. Doubt that God knows best. Doubt that God has prepared for me what it is that I really need. Doubt that God really even cares about me in the first place. Doubt that what God has put before me is reality. That's why every year we have this opportunity to say, stop being dumb. Allow God to love you the way that he loved Thomas. Do you believe because you've seen? Blessed are those who have not seen and have come to believe. I may not have seen the face of God, but I've seen his aftermath. Time and time and time again. Every time there's a tragedy in life, in the midst of it, in that turmoil, we don't see it. But when we look back, I guarantee you, whatever tragedy you've gone through, if you look back hard enough, you will see the presence of God. Not in a, it's his fault way, though that's sometimes how we start, but in a revelatory way to see that God can use those obstacles that we had in those moments of our lives to convert our hearts into the image of his own immaculate heart. That he offers us his grace, his peace, his mercy, and his compassion. All we have to do is get out of the way and say, okay. And he will flood us with his love. There's not one person in this church tonight that doesn't have loss. There's not one person in this church tonight that does not have regret. You can't change that. You can play the what-if game forever. Believe me, it doesn't get you anywhere, except a little lighter on top, a little bigger in the belly sometimes, because that's where we go with our grief sometimes when we don't know how to properly pray through it and pray with it. We go to the external, to the things that make us feel good, to those sinful behaviors that we think will be enough until we realize that they never will be. Oh, just one more drink, just one more cigarette, just one more whatever it may be. Oh, just one more hour watching TV, just one more hour on social media, just one more video, just one more. No, that's addiction. That's not peace, that's not mercy, that's not grace, that's not God. The only thing we need more of, the only thing I need more of, is right there. I need more of the Lord. But to have place and time and position in my life for more of Him, that means I've got to be willing to divest. I have to be willing to look at my life and say, what things do I really, truly not need? Not want. There's a lot of things that I want that I don't need. A lot of things. I would love to have a snow cone tonight. My diabetes says, are you still that dumb? Sometimes I say, yes, I am. But that's that same temptation we have for other things in our lives as well. And it all begins with doubt. You know what? If I have one more snow cone, it's not really going to hurt me, is it? Well, it could. Could send my blood sugar shooting up to the point where I have to go to the hospital. It's happened before. Not from a snow cone. It wasn't their fault. It was the candy bar every time. Because I thought I could have one more. Or how many times do we think we can drink one more? Or eat one more? I have to admit, every time I go to one of those Brazilian all-you-can-eat meat places, I've learned a new definition of full, and that's when the meat sweats start. You know what I'm talking about? We've had just so much of it. You're like, oh, but man, that steak looks so good. If I have it, I'm going to pop. Is it worth it? No, it's not. But we convince ourselves that it is, time and time and time again. It's that same doubt that we have. You know what? If I do the same thing over and over and over and expect a different result, again, insanity. But we still fall to that trap. And ironically, those aren't the things that we define ourselves by. We rarely define ourselves by our vices. Do you notice that? Oh, well, if I just have one more, it's not a bad thing. But this one time that I did this one thing, that's what's really, really bad. Could be. I mean, it could be really, really bad. But neither one of those things define who you are. What defines who you are is from that first reading that we heard last Saturday night. Created in His image and likeness, and found very good. Before the Lord, you are found very good. Even if you are in sin, before the Lord, you are good. We separate from God. God does not separate from us. So as we come to this second Sunday of Easter, this second weekend where we celebrate God's divine mercy, may we be merciful with ourselves. That's the hardest mercy to accept. That's the hardest forgiveness to recognize that we really need. Forgive yourselves for whatever you need to forgive yourself for. Spend some time after Mass. We'll keep the doors open. We'll keep the lights on. It's like Motel 6. We'll keep the light on for you. As long as you need to stay here to divest of those things that are keeping you from God, that's my invitation tonight. Oh, Father, it's Easter. We're supposed to be joy-filled. Yes, we are. But there's something holding each of us back. It's those things that we don't want to recognize in our lives. And so let them go. Divest of them. Redefine yourself as a child of God and allow God's mercy to conform and convert your hearts.